Welcome to the PowerPoint presentation, Class 9, Subject English. Today I'm going to give you an explanation and the summary of the poem Wind, poet Subramaniam Bharati, and it is prepared by Anne Mary Singh, Army Public School, Ranikhet. About the poet. Chinnaswamy Subramaniam Bharati, also known as Bharatiyar, was a Tamil writer, poet, journalist, Indian independent activist, a social reformer, popularly known as Mahakavi Bharati. He was a pioneer of modern Tamil poetry and is considered one of the greatest Tamil literary figures of all time. Introduction of the poem. The poem was written by a Tamil poet Subramaniam Bharati and was converted to English by A.K. Ramanujam. In this poem's first paragraph, the poet is blaming the winds as because of its precious book fell down from the rack shelf and the pages of his book were torn. His room was a mess as all his papers were lying on the floor and everywhere. The wind broke the shutters of the windows due to when rain came again. He says that wind is very clever, which he means that it destroys every weak things that came in front of it. Due to wind scrambling, buildings and roofs fall down. People lose their lives and their loved ones. And by the sorrow of losing our loved ones, our heart also breaks and we feel sad. When winds come, the grains get separated from the chaff and at times crushes them. The wind does not follow anyone, so we should make our houses and ourselves strong enough to face the winds. Friendship with wind is good. As it makes us strong, we praise the winds every day. Summary of the poem. The poet describes the power of wind in this poem. The wind is compared with force in this poem. The wind can easily break window panes when it blows strongly. The books from shelf fell down and wind tears apart the pages. It feels like wind enjoys its power and laughs at weaker things. Theme of the poem. The central theme of the poem is about the wind that takes the shape of a tornado. Here it is described of possessing human qualities and feelings such as happiness and being mischievous too. It goes around everywhere, making commotion and destroying and chasing things. Now we'll go with the explanation of the lines. Lines 1 to 4. Wind, come softly. Don't break the shutters of the windows. Don't scatter the papers. Don't throw down the books on the shelf. Summary. In these lines, the poet directly talks to the wind. In fact, he makes an entreaty to the wind. He asks the wind not to break down the shutters of the windows. The shutters are the only thing that separate men from the stormy environment outside. So, in a way, the poet is asking the wind for protection. He also asks the wind not to scatter the papers in his room or to throw down the books from his bookshelves. It is pertinent for him to care about papers and books and for them to be the first thing in his room that he doesn't want disorganized because he is a writer. Perhaps some of these papers also contain drafts of poems like this one. Hence, they are very important to him and he cannot afford to lose them. Lines 5 to 7. There, look what you did. You threw them all down. You tore the pages of the books. You brought rain again. Summary. In these lines, the poet continues speaking to the wind. However, the tone he now uses to address the wind has changed from the tone he had been using in the first 4 lines of the poem. Here he takes on an accusatory tone. You know what is accusatory? What is the meaning of accusatory? It means allegation. He gestures towards the mess in his room and tells the wind that it is he who is responsible for it. He shows the wind how he has thrown all the books down from the bookshelves with his force and torn pages out of those books as well. However, the poet does not restrict his vision only to the inside of his house. Casting his gaze outside, he also accuses the wind of having brought about a rainfall with himself while approaching the poet's house. Lines 8 to 12. You are very clever at poking fun at weaklings. Frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. The wind god winnows and crushes them all. Summary. In these lines, the poet keeps speaking to the wind. Now his tone has once again undergone a change. While it is still a history, it has also become sombre to some extent. Sombre means gloomy. The poet tells the wind that he makes mischief whenever he comes face to face with anyone who is too meek and mild to protest against his action. The wind can tear down the doors, the rafters, or entire wooden houses altogether. This is the wind's overt action, leaving people without a roof over their heads, a wall to keep them sheltered from the harsh world outside. However, the wind also has a covert action to understand what the poet is talking, the doors, the rafters, or entire wooden houses altogether. Lines 13 to 15. He won't do what you tell him. So, come, let's build strong homes. Let's join the doors firmly. Summary. In these lines, the poet stops speaking to the wind and starts speaking to his readers. He tells his readers that the wind does not listen to anybody and that his actions are governed by him alone. Therefore, we cannot escape the ill effects of the wind by appealing to the wind like he has been doing. Instead, we should build our homes on a strong foundation and ensure that our tones cannot be easily penetrated in order to save ourselves from the wind. Lines 16 to 18. Practice to firm the body. Make the heart steadfast. Do this, and the wind will be friends with us. Summary. In these lines, the poet outlines some other ways in which his readers can save themselves from the wind. He says that we must make ourselves strong, both physically and mentally. We must train our bodies and our hearts to combat against and resist the ill effects of the wind. If we are able to do this, then the poet thinks that we will no longer consider the wind an enemy. Instead, the wind will invite us to become his friend, and we will be able to fearlessly accept his invitation. Lines 19 to 20. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. In these lines, the poet describes how the wind has both bad effects and good effects. In order to elucidate on the bad effects of the wind, he shows how the wind can blow out a fire if it is glowing with a weak force. However, if the fire is burning strongly, then the wind will not blow it out, but make it fiercer. Thus, the wind can nurture that which is already strong. Now, at last, but not the least, we will go with intonation, modulation, and recitation part in our next PPT. I will also tell you something about the figure of speech that the poet has used. Till then, go through the slides carefully and stay safe at home. Thank you.